Okay, we are live. Are we good to go?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So welcome everybody to the Thursday, January 27th, Downtown Advisory Board meeting. We've got a jam-packed agenda here, very exciting. But for opening exercises, I'll go ahead and take roll call. So Linda Nishioka. She's here, hi. Tyson Giza, not present. Scott Hosner.
Here.
Summer Keatley. Vincenzo Maduri. Here. Alan Pollock.
Here.
Quandary Robertson. Jordan Truitt.
Here.
And last but not least, Charles Weathers.
Here.
Present. So we're missing a couple, but I think we're gonna just proceed on through with number 2. Everybody should have the agenda that was sent over by Anita, but the introduction of our newest DAB board member, Scott Hosner. Welcome. So Scott, I think we're gonna go around and introduce ourselves first. Linda, go ahead.
Hi, Scott.
Good to see you, Linda.
Good to see you and welcome. I'm so glad that you're here and with us. So Scott and I do know each other, and he knows that I've been on the Downtown Advisory Board now for a little over 2 years. So welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Linda.
I'm just going down our list here. Next, Vincenzo.
Hello, Scott.
Hi, Benny.
Scott and I know each other. Scott was on Enlightened's board for a long time, and we've been friends since I was in middle school. So glad you're here.
Small world.
Small world. Small Salem.
This is Salem for you. Alan Pollock.
Hey, Scott, Alan Pollock from Chariot. I think everybody on here knows Scott already, but it's good to see you again, and welcome to the board.
Good to see you, Alan. Thank you.
Jordan.
Sorry about that. Computer froze up on me. Hey, Jordan Truitt, First Commercial Real Estate, work with that rascal.
Good to meet you, Jordan.
Yeah, you too, Scott.
And Charles.
Well, I'm the loser that doesn't know you. So hello, my name is Charles, and I own and operate 440 Food Hall downtown, and I just hang out and make some jokes, it seems. So.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, Charles. And I have frequented Fork 40 many times.
Oh, wonderful. Well, then it's like I do know you. Just
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
I live just a couple blocks away.
Wonderful.
And Scott, go ahead. A majority of people know you here, but we're obviously live streaming too. So who are you, and what you're about, and what brings you to DAB?
Sure. Well, I'm Scott Hosner. I'm one of the owners of Allied Video Productions, which I believe is technically outside of the district, but I live downtown. And I wanted to clarify that because my new, my nice packet I got said I'm representing a business owner in the district. Technically, I live in the district, and my business is just outside of it. So hopefully that doesn't cause any issues. Like I said, I live downtown Salem in the Rivers condominiums there across from the Riverfront Park. And like, for instance, I first met Linda at the groundbreaking of her building because I'm very interested in what's going on in downtown Salem and love to have my ear to the ground. And I'm excited to be a part of these conversations.
Marvelous introduction. We're happy to have you here, Scott. It's going to be an exciting 2022 for DAB. So we got to move on to some board business here, the approval of the agenda. Unless there's any questions, I'd ask for a motion to approve that. I see you talking, Linda, but I didn't hear you.
I was muted, sorry. I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Seconds. All those in favor of approving our agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those not, nay. Motion carries. We have an approved agenda. Now moving forward to number 4, the approval of the minutes from our December 14th meeting. I'd ask for a motion to approve those unless there's any questions or comments.
I'll move approval of the minutes from December 14th.
And I will second that. This is Linda.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the December 14th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Those not, nay. Motion carries. Moving forward, action items, 3 of them now. Cherie, I think we'll start with the annual election of the advisory board chairman and vice chairman for 2022.
Thank you, Josh. So yes, the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have a chair and a vice chair to cover our meetings. Right now, Josh is the chair and Linda Nishioka is the vice chair. And any of you can nominate other people or yourself or the current people that are in the positions, but we need to make sure that we have them for the next year. Who wants to be first?
Truth be told, I did not know this was an annual election.
Yes, neither did I.
Can I
I
like
nominate
motion that
Josh.
they-
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's fine. I was like, I'll motion that it stays the same.
Yeah, great minds think alike. You guys do a wonderful job, very committed. We'd love to see you keep doing it.
Yes.
Linda, how do you feel about continuing with vice chair unless you would like to take chair?
I thought you would ask. No, vice chair sounds really good still. So if you stay on, that's great. Yeah, I'm happy to stay vice chair.
Well, I am too, and I think we've done a good job of tag teaming. I haven't been able to make a couple meetings, and you've graciously stepped in, and I would be happy to continue on with chair for 2022, if you'd so have me. So unless there's any discussion, we can put it to a vote. Do I need to initiate that, or would there need to be a motion, Cherie?
Well, as a chair, you can initiate it. So you can indicate that you have been nominated to continue as chair and Linda has been nominated, and then put it to the vote, and that's been seconded, and you can put it to the vote.
Well,
You didn't nominate yourself, so go for it.
before you do that, Josh, I would really like to ask, is there anyone? And I know that some of you have served on this board in the past, which does give you a nice history. If anyone feels that they would like to step up to vice chair, I would certainly like to hear that. I'm listening.
Linda, you see Vincenzo's muted. He's been
I-
vice in the past.
I knew.
And
I
you
was
see that
waiting for it.
motion? Yeah.
Waiting for it. I've done my time.
You've done your time. You don't want to do anymore.
I mean, there might come a time, but right now I'm just, trying to stay afloat and figure out everything going on with Enlighten. So I'd rather not step into it. Thank you for calling on me, Cherie. Very sweet.
Anyone else? Anyone else want to offer up? All right, Josh, then if you're okay, I'm okay.
Okay. Well, I know I apparently have the functional ability to initiate that motion, but I don't know, but I'd rather not if somebody else would like to initiate it. It feels odd initiating that for myself.
I'll move approval of nominating the incumbents to remain in their positions for another year.
No, this is Jordan. I'll second.
Jordan seconds. So all those in favor of continuing with the incumbents of myself as chair and Linda Nishioka as vice chair, say aye.
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 Those not in favor, nay. Motion carries. All right, let's go. Thank you, Linda, and thank you everyone else for the vote of confidence. Yeah, I'm excited about DAB. There's just a lot of exciting things going on for downtown, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So we'll carry on. So we'll move on to our second action item, the approval of our second DAB meeting date in February to review and approve budgets. Any kind of comment on that, Cherie?
So Michael, our staff person on point for budgets, he has deadlines of March. And the board's request of me has always been that you get a budget, an opportunity to discuss it, and then bring it back for action at a second meeting. There's been times in the past where you felt pressure to look at something and make a decision right at that time. And so we always have 2 meetings for each budget. So in order to meet the deadline for having budgets recommended, we would need to have that second meeting in February. So basically today we're looking at Riverfront. If there's any changes, that would come back to you at the first meeting in February that we're going to talk about right now for approval. And at that meeting, you would be presented with the draft parking fund budget. And then any changes that came out of that discussion would come back to you at our regular meeting, let's see, on the 24th of February for approval. So I'm proposing that we look at, if it works with the majority for a quorum schedule, at February 10th. So we would have a meeting the second Thursday of the month, February 10th. And then we would have our regular meeting on the 24th. And that way we could get your budget recommendations to Michael to meet his schedule.
So the date is the 10th of February.
Yes, I'm asking for a second meeting on February 10th.
Cherie, would that meeting be at the standard noon time?
Same. Yeah, same time.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
I don't know if anyone else is looking at their calendars. I have a conflict, but certainly could move it. How is everybody else's calendar looking for that date? Charles is good. Scott's good. Jordan, Alan, good.
I'll be out of town, but I can zoom in. I'll be able to zoom in. Either that or call in. I can do one of the other.
Same. Well, if we're all in agreement and we can make accommodations to meet it, and obviously that's a big part of what we do, I'd say let's put this to a motion. So do I hear a motion for the February 10th date?
I move that we have an additional DAB meeting to review budget on Thursday, February 10th at our noon time, and then continue with our regular meeting on the 24th.
Second.
Alan seconds. Okay. All those in favor of a February 10th meeting for DAB, in addition to the scheduled meeting for the 24th, say aye.
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 Those not in favor, nay. Okay, motion carries. We are set. So we'll look forward to those emails from Anita with the documentation for that. Now, moving forward to our third action item before we get into information reports. Councillor Stapleton is here, and we have asked the board to let her know how often you would like to attend a DAB meeting. So, Councillor Stapleton, thank you for joining us today again. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you all. I love just sitting here and watching you guys do all the great work of being on a committee here in town. And I have asked staff to just put this on the agenda to find out how often it would be helpful for me to come, and what kind of information you all are needing from me, and just how I can support you in any way. So I'm here and listening, and will try and do what I can to help support you.
Well, first, thank you for the initiative and being proactive. You know, in the past, historically, DAB has been a staple for the city as a sitting board. And obviously, like I said in the past, we're only as effective as how every one of us engages. So to have you as a counselor step forward, thank you. But we certainly wouldn't want to inundate you. I know you also have a lot of other responsibilities at the city.
So Josh, what I was thinking was, I had the pleasure and privilege of doing a walkabout with Counselor Stapleton. She sent me an email and asked to do that. And I'm going to be really honest with the board. As I shared with her, I've never had another counselor ask to do that with me. So I was very impressed with that. And she also asked about the frequency of attending meetings. I'm thinking quarterly would be appropriate. I thought that might be something that you as a board would appreciate. She can certainly come. The other thing that came out of our walkabout was I was unaware she was not getting our packets in our agenda, or which I thought everybody did. So that way she could pick and choose if she wanted to join or listen to a meeting if there was something of interest on that agenda for her, or she can do like what she's done today. She can always come and be a part of us, even though she's not on the agenda officially. Just want to make sure that she gets from us what she needs to. So I would propose quarterly with the option of she will be here when she can, just to listen and observe and participate if she chooses to, but not officially be on the agenda, making that commitment that you're talking about, Josh, a little bit different than if it's on her own terms, but we check in with her quarterly to bring her up to date. What do you guys think about that proposal?
Well, that would seem to be prudent. I would just want to make sure that we're making good use of your time if you're committing to being here with us. And obviously I'm just looking at the Ward 1 map here, and you are the council person for pretty much all of downtown. The line goes right through the middle of it, right there, I'm seeing. But yeah, we would love for you to join us quarterly, unless there's some type of special consideration with anything pending. There's some things coming up in downtown that I know of. Anyone else have any comments? I don't want to take up the space or the air here. Okay, well, quarterly it is. Great recommendation. And again, thank you, Counselor.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I'll do my best to be here quarterly. And if there's anything that you guys have questions about, please feel free to email me before the meeting so that I can come prepared to answer any questions. I know, just like you were saying, Josh, there's so much that's coming up for downtown that I really feel like we're kind of on a kind of sitting there just ready to go with so many different opportunities before us. So I want to make sure that we have good communication as we head into this busy time of hopefully a revitalization and a re-blossoming of downtown in this new kind of form. So please feel free to reach out to me, any of you. I'm sure you'll have my email, but I can drop it in the chat as well. And I'll just continue to look at those agendas as they come through and get it on my calendar for quarterly. And I appreciate all your guys' work and again, open communication. So please feel free to reach out.
So Josh, just was an action item. So I need you to take action for checking in with Counselor Stapleton quarterly for the board.
Sure. So I would ask for a motion to formally request Counselor Stapleton to join us quarterly at DAB.
So moved.
Second.
Jordan seconds. Okay, all those in favor of Counselor Stapleton of Ward 1 joining the Downtown Advisory Board on a quarterly basis, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, nay. Motion carries. Okay, wonderful. Now, moving forward, we're just blazing through this agenda here. Information reports. Really excited to see this on the docket here with the investment into Riverfront Park with the amphitheater, and what kind of exciting talent and entertainment and recreational opportunities we're going to have with that now being a staple in the Riverfront Park. So here we have with us Robert Chandler from the city, from Public Works. He's going to be talking to us about reservation policies and hopefully what might be coming down the pipeline. We'd love to hear of any inquiries, whatever you're willing to share with us or able to.
Well, thank you very much. I am going to try to share screens, which is a lot easier to say than to actually do sometimes. Let's see what happens. Is it up?
Yes.
Excellent. So again, I am Robert Chandler. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works here in Salem. And for those of you largely unfamiliar with Public Works, we are the regional providers of drinking water and wastewater services. That includes areas of unincorporated Marion County, City of Turner. We do wastewater for Kaiser and water supply for everybody else. Kaiser has its own wells. We do stormwater and floodplain management, development services, streets, street lights, street trees, signs, signals, bridges. And we also do parks and recreation, and we build stuff. And so in all of that, as I tell various career day kids, I work in a problem solver's paradise. It's a lot of fun, and even if the problems are not so much fun, the people with whom I work are brilliant, both within our professional staff, the community, the council, the mayor. It's a great work environment. So with that introduction, I'll next add a confession. I was asked to come to the Downtown Advisory Board some months ago to talk about a topic that even then I wasn't exactly sure what we would know come January. So here I am. And what I will do is share with you kind of where we are with the amphitheater and looking ahead. I will talk briefly about reservations and fees and then basically open it for questions. So let's see what happens here. So that is classic picture of the amphitheater with the Eco Earth and the Peter Courtney Mitchell Brown Island Bridge in the background. It's a great facility. This was a joint project with the City of Salem and the Rotary Club of Salem. The Rotary Club built the amphitheater, the platform, the covering, the performance facility. The City of Salem built all the supporting aspects of it, brought in the soil, the walkways, the irrigation system, electrical, power, landscaping, and we worked really, really well together, the two organizations. I'm not exactly sure, but I think rough math is the amphitheater is about 3 to 4 million and the park supporting is about 3 to 4 million. So that's what you have here in the Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater. It was probably between 3 and 4 years, depending on how you want to count when the concept began, long process working together. The amphitheater was formally, kind of quietly turned over from the Rotary Club to the City of Salem in October of last year. The first event was from the Indigenous Peoples Day, also in October. This is a picture from that event, and you can see just how the facilities can be used. It also has way cool night lights, really fun to watch. In fact, it has kind of a spaceship look about it if you're not prepared to see it. And it's really easily seen as you drive across Front Street. It's a great amenity to the city. So more boring, this is clearly not a photo taken by our desktop publishing folks, but it's a map drawn by the city engineer. This is sort of how it's laid out for, I guess, talking about reservations and areas. Among the things we talked about, and my cursor's there, we already have an amphitheater in the park, which is now, instead of called the amphitheater, it is the Riverfront Park Amphitheater. And then you'll see the Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater complex over here. What we've decided to do as far as making areas available for reservations, that really is the entire complex. But within that, because there's some performances, some activities that don't really need the whole thing, we divide it into other aspects, other areas that are reservable. The Pringle Creek Esplanade, if you ever go back down to Riverfront Park and look at the amphitheater, on stage right, there's kind of a nice flat aspect there that will work great for a beer garden or a small reception. You see there about 6,000 square feet. It is possible to rent the stage itself alone, small event, a poetry slam, small gathering. Then there's a lower lawn, the upper lawn. And then we have, it's called the Vendor Plaza, and that is 14 stalls, each with its own electrical power and its own water supply. So it is possible as the performance season approaches and people start getting ideas of what they would like to do, to reserve any one or any combination of these facilities, as well as the entire amphitheater itself. For those of you who have ever used or reserved a reservable facility, you know that the fees are set by council. Is the adopted master fee schedule. That's the cover for this year's fees. The fee is variable. Some of the questions that came up as we were building the amphitheater is, so is it going to price the smaller venues, the smaller users out of the market? And the answer is no. It's variable depending on, are there sales going on? Is it going to be concessions? Are there going to be concessions? Is there an admission fee? Commercial sales? Is it a contest, as you see there? And each of those varies, and you can rent it by the hour, by the event, or by the day, depending on the nature of the event. I will also add that if you want to reserve it, then we have a website, which actually, I tend to sound surprised, which is a very good resource for information of how to reserve it, and there's contact information there. And you can talk to our mighty fine public works staff and see whether events or whether dates are available. I will add that among the policies is that you can reserve the facility. You can ask for the facility to be reserved, but it is not officially reserved until you have completed all of the forms, have all the signatures, and you've paid the reservation fee. If you have not done that, the facility is not yours, and it is conceivable that you can be bumped from the schedule depending on what else comes up. What's next? In all of my education and all of the graduate studies and everything else in my experiences, I've never been taught how to operate an outdoor amphitheater. And I have talked with a number of outdoor amphitheater managers along the West Coast, and I have learned a lot about the tradecraft, but it is not something that that I do. And it's also a fascinating field that ideally you go into you go to a concert, you show up, there's tickets that work smoothly, there's seating that works, the sound system works well, there are enough chemical toilets and not a long line, security is good, and you have a great experience and you leave. And all that goes on behind the curtain. There's a lot that goes on when you conduct an event. And it became clear, based on the level of ambition for this facility, that we needed to bring on board a full-time amphitheater manager. We are nearing the end of that process. Money's coming from top, the transient occupancy tax. We're down to the final interviews with somebody familiar with everything from logistics to the one-page text sheet, rigging, lighting, sound, everything else, to bring on board somebody who will work actually directly under me and work very close with Becky George, our recreation manager, to bring events to the Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater. Next thing is questions. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. So I think I heard someone say, so what's coming down, big shows and everything. It's an intriguing facility. I've talked to, I spent quite a bit of time with the manager of the Les Schwab Amphitheater in Bend, and talked with other amphitheater managers, and most of the venues, they're an amphitheater. I mean, they're set aside, you go to it. It is how, and you kind of book it independent of the surroundings. The amphitheater here is integral to the park. And as you walk around Riverfront Park, particularly on a sunny day, it is not unusual to see somebody on stage pretending they're performing, enjoying the view, soaking up the rays, the informal drum circles. It is part of the park. And when you see people enjoying the lower lawn, the upper lawn, walking around, it is integral to Riverfront Park. And so operating and bringing events into that park is a little more complicated. You also have the Riverfront Park Amphitheater next door that share a common sound space. So sorting out how to operate it in a way that brings events to downtown is, that's gonna be fun, but I'm not exactly sure how it's gonna work out. The level of ambition for the amphitheater is big name shows, bringing Salem as a center for excellence for Mid-Willamette Valley entertainment, known certainly regionally, if not nationwide and beyond. Among the complications for that, I've learned are various clauses and contracts among entertainers that do not compete. Oftentimes they put a radius around there so you don't rob somebody at another venue if you do side back-to-back locations. So you'll find a lot of very good shows that perform in Eugene, Bend, and Portland, because those meet the do not compete radii. But you perform in Salem, now suddenly you may not be able to perform in those other three venues. So it's something to be addressed. Also, you have to balance the big name shows, the large ticketed events, our capacity, depending on how you see it, is between 3,000 and 5,000 people. Large events to high school graduations, drum circles, yoga with beer, poetry slams, all the other things that want to use a great facility. So it is a community amenity, a community commons, part of the park, and a performance space all in one that also has to complement the other activities going on at Riverfront Park. Runs, walks, gatherings, family reunions, an Ironman competition. So it's a great grand ride. And we're working on it. And I cannot wait to share the adventure with the new amphitheater manager once we bring that person on board. That actually exhausts my notes. So with that, Chair, I will entertain any questions that anybody might have.
Excellent presentation, Robert.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I have a bunch of questions, but I want to open up the floor.
Okay, I'm going to ask mine first. Thank you so much, Mr. Chandler, for bringing that all up. I'm interested in learning a little bit more, like you're discussing about events and the radius and all that stuff, which is understandable. Are the people that are potentially managing this, are they also going to be managing bringing acts in, like working with the booking agent, or what's kind of the idea? Is that people reach out to the city of Salem if a big name wants to, if like what do we have, River City Rock or whatever for a while, but that was run by Tom, I think.
Correct.
So what is the plan that way in terms of booking?
So
like
what I'm learning,
booking names.
It's a great question. So what I'm learning is that, well, first of all, you have the community events, community shows. There is an interest on the part of some to put on a performance, either one or a series of performances over several days, showcasing Salem talent. So there's kind of an organic production that goes on that requires an organizer to provide the logistics I talked about. If you ever conduct an event, it's a lot of things to remember, but from chemical toilets, ticketing, security, all of that. There are also promoters, and I've talked to a number of them, either like on a relative scale, small or large, who are interested in bringing shows here. And some of them book independently. A lot of them say they're on a West Coast tour. Why not stop by Salem and make it happen? And those production groups typically will have an advance party and bring in and make sure the arrangements are made, or they would contract with us to make sure they are made. The performers themselves would come in, sound check, perform, and then leave the next day. And then you have the post-event cleanup. So there's both of those. And then in between all of that, even now we're getting requests for events. Somebody wants to do a small rock show, or somebody wants to have a high school concert band performance or graduation. And we book those in between. Did that help, Vince?
Yeah, I think, I guess the bigger question though around it is there going to be someone responsible for booking these bigger events, or are we waiting for them to reach out to us?
Both. Some have reached out to us already.
Right.
I can't talk too much about where the individuals, but the competitive people for the amphitheater manager all have network and connections. It's a fairly tight field, and you know who to call and say, hey, we've got this great venue. What do you want to do? So it will be go both ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
My question was going to be how the decision went into, developing the position within versus outsourcing it to maybe somebody that already has the expertise, the connections, the incentive to go out and get the acts. This isn't my area of expertise whatsoever, but when you mentioned, Robert, some of those inner workings, the access, the security, you really kind of need to have it be entwined with the city. So it makes sense in that regard. I just, my head goes to, we saw the initial renderings and we saw the locations of the restrooms and we asked questions and early on, I think that was last year. But I think of the economic impact of what that, and the investment and all the work that went into launching that, and the sense of urgency of what that means for downtown businesses to have 3,000 to 5,000 people going at a set time, and the occupancy and the generation of the TOTs. So, and I know these things get planned out so far in advance. So what is the booking? What are the bookings looking like? And where does the revenue go that's generated?
I think there were like 4 questions in that.
A lot, sorry.
So we considered, we Public Works specifically, because it's kind of our facility, our park, but working with city manager's office and others, do we contract out? An example of where that does take place is the Salem Convention Center, which is operated independently. I will get the details incorrect, but basically it's a city facility that is operated by contract. And that is an option. There's also, in some cities do that, and it's a lot easier to do that when it is an independent, separate facility. What I found in talking to various potential promoters and managers over the last year or so is that there's a big interest in managing the facility for the big shows. And everyone, I mean, we would select somebody certainly competent not only in bringing in the shows, but managing all the logistics. But although an entity is interested in the big programs, they are less interested in coordinating the smaller ones, the drum circles, yoga with goats, and everything else.
Yeah.
And we like control, in part because we're accountable. If we say, well, they made the mistake, but it's our park, our facility. So we decided to keep it on our own. And the model we have for that is the softball complex and our Softball City USA, which also brings in a lot of money for the community, some money for the general fund, and we manage that. In fact, Becky George, the recreation manager, under her, our softball group that does that. So that's why we went that route. Did I miss one question?
No, there was a jam. It was fully loaded, but so the money generated will go towards the general fund.
My understanding is the money is generated from a general funded activity goes into the general fund. As I said, the position here is funded by TOT. It is a limited duration position, 18 months, no more. one of the objectives of the person in this position is to demonstrate the concept. Because it might very well be that there is no appetite for big shows, or that's not that vision is just not ripe yet. In which case we'll drop back down and rent it out just like we do the other amphitheater and everything else. Or it can become its own venue, its own program, and expand. Or it's a lot of ways it can go. We just don't know.
Thank you.
Sure. Other questions?
I have a question. I know just through social media and all that sort of world we live in that there was a lot of controversy last summer with unpermitted events happening at the amphitheater. And I'm just curious how this venue might be policed for unpermitted events, or how that is handled if people, when the venue's not otherwise in use, just take it over.
So, kind of a long story, and I was peripherally involved. So my introductory remark is that I may get this incorrect, but we were managing events last summer like we manage all events. Of somebody submits an event request, a facility use and approval permit, they apply, get the insurance, the documents signed, they pay us, and they have the venue. The governor came out with a number of rules designed to mitigate the impacts of COVID and to clarify responsibilities. And among the responsibilities is that the venue owner is responsible for ensuring the rules are followed and responsible for cleanup after, and basically put a lot of burden on the property owner. That works if you're if you're renting out a small space for a small gathering. It was just beyond our capacity to do that through Public Works and our recreation staff. So it was unfair or questionable, appropriate for us to lease or book a venue without accepting the responsibility for actually managing the COVID requirements. So at that point, we stopped issuing permits. So part of the reason there were unpermitted events is because we were not issuing permits. A specific organization that appeared routinely without permits because we were not issuing permits had originally applied for permits and got them for a series of events. So it was kind of an unfortunate series of events compounded by a worldwide pandemic that could easily look bad and be skewed in social media. We're back in business booking events. And so really the events that occur on the weekends, the recurring events, or a festival, World Beat, for example, that runs 2-3 days, or Ironman, which takes up a significant part of the park, but also requires 4 days to set up. We book those, and people do not have the right to use the facilities that are being booked. And it's been, in the past, it's been just a modest issue when somebody sets up in the pavilion, for example, and because nobody's there, and they set up, mid-morning, and then the noontime people who reserved it show up. Most people just say, "Oh, didn't know," and they leave. It's not that big. Typically, it's not that big of a deal. So we're accepting bookings now. Did that answer the question, Scott?
Yeah, but so I guess if I understand correctly, if there is nobody that has booked the amphitheater for a pre-planned event, anyone can just walk in and use it?
Yes, and they do. I was there, I guess, a month ago or so, and there was somebody performing as if in front of a large group of people. I forgot the name of the art, but basically it's hoops that you swing around your arms and your legs, and it's kind of a combination of dance and performance art. He was pretty good at it, but didn't have a permit, didn't have insurance, but it was open, so perfectly fine.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Cool.
So Robert, this is Cherie. I have a question for you. A decision was made that the city was going to be on point for the amphitheater versus engaging in a contract with somebody else who would then be responsible for cleaning it. Those things that you just said, we didn't have the capacity for: cleaning, booking, putting up, security, keeping it utilized. If in fact, in the future, that would be a better model, would that be something? Because part of the challenge right now is we don't know. We don't have any history. We make decisions based on a very unique situation in that ours is not standalone. Ours is part of a bigger park. And so we make the decisions we feel best are right now. If in the future, it lends itself more to engaging in contracting with someone to work in conjunction with the city staff persons that we have, just because of the frequency of the inquiries we get, the size of the inquiries, putting that burden on somebody other than ourselves. Is that something that could be, again, I know you really can't answer it because we don't know yet if that would ever be the case. But I know from the board, well, you heard it from Josh and Vincenzo's usually right there too. We see this as something, a vision for this, different than contributing in a way that we've never had something like this contribute before. So which is one of the reasons why you're here. Everybody's very interested in having things constantly going on and having it interact with the rest of the beauty of the park and bring support to downtown with all the new residents that are being proposed and stuff. So this is something that I'm sure we would love if you wouldn't mind coming back maybe next fall after you've had a summer and giving us some type of an update on how, or this, we would love to meet the person once you get them hired. That would be great, I think, for us to know who that person is and have them come if you prefer to give us regular updates. I mean, with the convention center, they do booking reports and we have I know I do, I have a sense of how many people are coming into downtown because of parking, depending on the event. It would be nice to be close to whoever's doing that so that the Main Street Association could let businesses know we're going to have this going on. Just start right out with a good relationship between what's going on there in downtown. Do you think that's something that sounds reasonable?
So let me parse out what you said.
Okay.
Earlier on, I can answer that, yeah, we're open to whatever is going to happen. We don't know. And if the best model is to contract out management of the amphitheaters, we'll know that. And then nothing is, so the answer is, yeah, we're open for that. And again, the reason we chose the model we're following, and there was a lot of discussion. Actually, I put out a request for information that got some feedback from promoters, arguably nationwide, to get some feedback. We, and I'll say I specifically, I'm the guy in the middle of this right now, felt that we needed to continue to hold, be the point for responsibility and authority and accountability for Halloween. So that's why we settled on operating it internally, at least for the first season and a half or two seasons. And depending on the concept, we'll see how it plays out from there. If it works, and I am optimistic, but that is my nature, the other issue is common in public works or parks specifically, is we get great facilities, great donations, great property, and no money to operate and maintain it. And so part of the objective is if we can demonstrate the concept and bring in enough revenue to fund the position and to build up a reserve for maintaining the facility is also an important aspect to it. So that's kind of the, and balancing big shows with yoga with beer is part of the tradecraft of this. As far as coming back to let you all know how we're doing, happy to do so. Fall would be a good time, don't let me forget. And ideally, it'll be a tag team with me and the amphitheater manager together. So I think I got them all.
Is the amphitheater manager, is that a City of Salem position now? Or is that a manager that has its own business that is now managing it?
Oh, good question. It's a full-time position. The person reports to me.
Okay, great.
But it's temporary. It's a limited duration employee. I don't have the budgetary authority to hire somebody permanent, but it's good for 18 months. So at least through into the next fiscal, past this coming fiscal year and into the next.
Is there a place to look online at the job description of that? I know that's already kind of going, but just like what exactly this person will be doing and what kind of connections that person will be creating, or I'm still just, I think I'm a little, I'm more intrigued and interested to know how exactly that person, and I know that we've talked about this enough of like, we're not quite sure, right? But, you know, we have this venue. I'd love to just know what the, you know, plan, what it seems like we're not quite sure of what the plan is. So it'd be nice to, like we said, maybe in the fall when we know who this is, to have an understanding of how we're balancing those ideas and how we're getting vitality going with other events rather than just local events. As it's supposed to be used for. So
I can send, do I send it to Cherie or Rebecca? I can send you the job description and then you can share it. That was, you know, what we asked for. And I'm looking at the squares here, and my guess is every one of you has hired people in the past, and what you ask for is not always what you get, or the people who apply, you want to kind of meld them all together into a single unit. Cherie, do I send it to you? Send it to Rebecca? Who gets it?
Yeah, send it to me. That's great.
Okay, got that. Yes, there are, there are a lot of known unknowns, but there are also probably some unknown unknowns that make this an intriguing ride. We'll see what plays out. I will add that, among the things, so as I said, typically the road shows, the larger performing groups, they typically, the artists will show up, sound check, perform, and leave. That's how they typically operate when they're on the road. One of the ways that can better connect them to the venue and to the city, and actually improve, add to the business environment, and I've heard this as an idea, is you pick a name, and they're performing 7 to 10 o'clock at the Amphitheater on Saturday, but maybe they want to do drop by at one of our downtown pub bar stages after that and play till midnight or beyond. Maybe want to stay an extra day or whatever. So you kind of link the person with the business, with the community beyond the stage. And that has been done with various degrees of success by other venues. So a lot of opportunities. We'll like I say, we'll see.
So Robert, this is Linda. One of the questions I wanted to ask is, oftentimes, and this may be dependent upon who you hire and how they go about it, but it would be nice if we had an easy resource to see what's coming up, and potentially then how the businesses that might say, wow, I want to see how I can tie into this, or find ways to promote themselves within our own area to support that venue or activity, whatever it might be. And I say this because sometimes I honestly don't always know what's happening at the convention center. And now with the new Holman Hotel coming, we're expanding enough that we need to, I think people need to be aware of what is happening as early as possible. So I'm wondering if that's something that the city will be doing, or the manager that you're hiring, and then that might have to be resourced out into some sort of social media support, or how you would manage that if it's happening.
So one of the things that came to mind that I forgot to mention is I have, in the course of developing our broad strategy, talked both with Travel Salem and the Convention Center for advice and feedback. So they've been engaged to some degree. The amphitheater manager who is hired needs to be not familiar, but savvy and an operator in social media. Among the things that is certain to happen is that the Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater is a significant feature of Salem, and it will have its own Google pin. And when it has a Google pin, there are Google rankings. And the first set of stars with that ranking are important. Customer satisfaction for the first event, for the series of events, the response to that, the customer service is a key aspect and a key responsibility for this person managing the amphitheater. Interacting with the business community and having a robust scheduling information program out there is also very important. A lot of this local shows interact with our local businesses, asking you to sponsor with signs. And I conducted, the 3 triathlons, and I probably talked to all of you about, you want to be a sponsor. So there's that interaction. Can we put a poster on your window? But I think also knowing what's going on and being able to tailor your, even tailor your staff to respond when the show is over, they come out. Those are also important things that come along. So communication, ways of communicating, and providing some, I would say, centrality, but addressing the various nodes of communication and information is part of the requirements and responsibility for the manager.
All right, thank you. That's what I wanted to hear, and I do think it's going to be quite important. With the half Ironman that came to Salem, and that hopefully it will continue on past the 3-year contract. That's a big deal, and if we can get more of those events or similar that can bring in a lot of out-of-town people, I think it would be extremely important that the businesses in the area know about it.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
Well, it's exciting. I know we could probably continue on with this for another couple hours. Want to be respectful of the agenda we have here. We've got some other things in front of us we need to address. Robert, thank you so much for coming. We look forward to hearing about the very successful spring and summer at downtown at the amphitheater, and it'll be great to see those metrics that you'll be tracking. Because
thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I have to head off, so I'm going to go ahead and log off, but don't take it personal. I'm just going to head off to other things. All the best of the rest of your meeting, and we will definitely stay in touch. All right.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
So exciting. It's not every day that you get a $4 million architecturally awarded project in the middle of your downtown. It's like a concert theater hall were to replace Salem Center Mall. It's like that's the kind of impact we're talking about. So that's a lot of dollars coming in. So exciting. So now we're getting down to the brass tacks here. We got to review some financials. So Cherie, let's open it up about the overview of our draft budget for 2022 and 2023, the urban renewal budget specifically.
So this is our great budget. All you needed to do is go down to the ending fund balance and see the $12 million and know that this is an amazing budget. But that doesn't mean we're still not going to talk through the projects that I outlined in the memo. I guess before we start, I want to make sure, does everybody have the budget, or do we need to put it up on the screen?
It would be helpful to do a screen share. I have it up on my other screen, but I think it'd be great to have up there visually for maybe people viewing on the their computers as well.
Okay, my second question is, did everybody got the memo? Anybody have any specific questions on what I shared? Because I want to make sure that I cover that. Answer any questions you might have.
No?
Okay, pretty easy pleasy. So Michael is our new budget manager here in urban development. So I can't see him, but I'm hoping he's there so he can say hello and introduce himself, and he's going to share the budget that we just mentioned on the screen. Let me see.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
There he is.
Yes, I've been here. I will not be as entertaining as the last individual, but nonetheless, the money fuels it, right?
Yes, so Michael, if you would put up the budget.
I will do that.
Great.
Right now. I'm not used to Zoom. I'm used to using Teams. Is that
Beautiful.
Is that what
Okay,
that green bar means? Okay, great.
great.
So, oh, go ahead.
For those of you that have been board members, this will look familiar to you. It's in the same format that we have traditionally gone over in prior years, where it tells you what we had approved in this year's budget. It tells you what we're on track, to spend, and then it proposes the draft budget. So anything that's on there that kind of wasn't in my memo that you would like Michael, like in resources, let's just go in the resource thing. Does anybody have any questions about any of those line items in the resources section of the budget? Okay, so then we'll look at the expenditures. And I shared with you in my memo what rebudget means versus new. Did anybody have any questions about that? Okay. So the new ones that I shared with you in the memo, I'll share them now again. So the streetscape landscape assessment, that's going to serve a couple purposes for us. Those of you who know me know I'm not afraid to say right up front when something that we're doing isn't working. And so we had a consultant that put together a plan for us, a streetscape plan, and they had plant recommendations that we put into the landscaped areas based on, we wanted them to be drought resistant, even though there's sprinklers in the landscaped areas. We wanted them, to be interesting in different heights and colors. But unfortunately, after the first two phases, if you go and look at what we've done, it's not working. It's not working for different reasons in different locations. If you go to Isaac's, you'll see that people must walk through 50% of the one landscaped area because it's bald on one side, and then there's some vegetation on the other side. If you go by the Nishioka building, a lot of the residents, pets are allowed in that building. And unfortunately, the closest locations when you take your pet out is those landscaped areas. So we have the wrong kind of plants to endure dog matter. And then some of the plants just aren't working because when we walk by them, we don't even know if it's a weed or a plant. Counselor Stapleton, one of her priorities for me was she wants to know, are we keeping Streetscape going? She likes the new Streetscape. I talked to her about this going to be on the budget that we recommend. She wants us to do as much as we can and get the phases and get it all done as soon as we can. But I told her that, what we've done, the choices and the placements, it doesn't look good. So we're putting the brakes on. I'd like to have somebody look at and assess the plant list that's in the plan and the plants, how they're working that were on the plant list. Propose something that would work better. And then the other thing I'm going to ask them to do is include in that a maintenance or and a cost associated with how to keep them up and appropriate looking all year round. And then that would tie to what? I don't have you in front of me, but I need all my board members to stay with me. So if I get a budget that says this is what it would cost to keep these landscaped areas beautiful all year long, what would I do with that? What would we do with it? Gold star. Who gets a gold star?
Just to be clear, what you're asking, I'm looking at streetscape landscaping or streetscape improvement and design program, and I'm counting basically 5.5 million, right?
Different line item. This is new projects. That's what we put in to keep doing our regular streetscape each year.
Oh.
This is called Streetscape Landscape Assessment, the 50,000.
Well,
Who gets my gold star? What am I going to do if somebody tells me how much it's going to cost for me to keep the landscaped areas good? What can't we do with urban renewal money?
And enhance the.
I can't pull the weeds.
Pay for maintenance.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. If we know how much it's going to cost, then we're going to turn around and look at the parking fund as we go into the future with that. We need to know what we need to have the look and feel that we want. Even though it's broken, it doesn't mean we wouldn't use that information to inform how we would put money in a budget to take care of that. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that sounds good.
So just know when we do streetscape, because some will start over by Busick Court, it's going to start March 1st. Any of the landscaped areas right now, I'm just putting bark in them because I don't have anybody to keep them up. That's part of the problem. Garden does some, but if we put it in, it's not serving the purpose we want. So until we know how we can keep it up, we're not going to be able to put plants in there if the plants aren't right and they're not being weeded and everything else.
That's really disappointing with how much money and time and energy went into the streetscape plan. I was at council when the consultants were presenting, and the level of detail and scrutiny into every single facet. We had this conversation last year about trash and recycling receptacles and how that integrated with streetscaping plan. So with the plantings being integral to it, you would think they would plan accordingly for the exact situation you described. These are really professional and expensive services to get. So I guess when I'm saying disappointing, it's obviously not directed at you. It seems very pragmatic to bark dust them because it's better than having, dead plants.
Right.
But to spend money after all of that investment just to not have the right plans is really disappointing, is what I'm expressing.
Well, that's why I don't want to keep it going. I mean, it's not like it isn't in front of our face. I mean, I don't really want to be criticized about something that's new. That doesn't seem appropriate. So it's like, why would I keep repeating something that and paying for that, Josh, if it's not going to be the right thing? And if we put it and we don't have any way to keep it up because urban renewal money, can't pay for maintenance,
Right.
then we talked about this a couple meetings back, that we have to think about every single thing that we do, because if it requires ongoing maintenance, where's that going to come from? Where's that money going to come from?
So Cherie, do you have any thoughts on how this could be changed so that there would be a line item, a department, someone, somewhere else where there could be maintenance funding instead of coming from the parking? So is there any way that with all of the money, as Josh has said, all the money and all of this effort we've had on Streetscape, how can we make it work with the visual of these lovely little mini parks? How do we take care of those mini parks? Is there any thoughts on that?
Could I jump in and help out with this one? Do you mind?
I don't mind.
Kristen Rutherford, Urban Development Director. So the maintenance issue really comes down to the parking fund. We do not have general fund resources to care for this. The general fund is very strapped with police, with fire, with parks maintenance, with all of the homeless services that we are now providing as that impact has grown. So it really comes down to the parking fund. And for any of those that have been on the board, we know that the parking fund model is broken and not sustainable. We've seen year by year an erosion in what we're able to accomplish using the parking fund for a couple of reasons. One, the methodology for how much we can increase it each year is far below what inflation is. And so we've lost a lot of buying power in the fund because of that. And also with COVID and also losing large businesses pre-COVID, such as Nordstrom's, and then followed by JCPenney, and then smaller businesses as well. We have just not been receiving the revenues that we used to in the past. So a solution for ongoing maintenance and having these services is going to have to be tied to addressing the parking fund and either changing the methodology for the system that we have or going to a paid parking system. A paid parking system is a recommendation in the Climate Action Plan. It's one of many recommendations within the Climate Action Plan. And so we're working through how we're going about rolling out and implementing the Climate Action Plan. That's going to be something that the city as a whole is involved in over the next several months. And then it also, on the larger scale, gets tied into other initiatives that the city has underway, such as the bond measure that we're planning to take out to voters for capital infrastructure investments. That would be in November. So we've got that going on, and we've got an election year this year with a number of council positions that are turning over and rolling out the Climate Action Plan. So there's a lot of phasing involved in this, and also kind of a community capacity for what people can digest and not get too overloaded with all of these big issues that are going on right now. So I will say that I know this board has had a lot of interest in moving towards a paid system. I think that a number of counselors at this point are interested in a paid system. We're hearing from more and more businesses that are interested in a paid system. And I see moving towards that direction as we work through all these other kind of big issues that are occurring at the same time over the next year.
Thank you, Kristen. I have a question about that. Obviously, urban renewal funds cannot go towards maintenance, but would urban renewal funds be available for the investment into the infrastructure required for paid parking?
Yes, it would. Yes.
So what would it take to initiate that? I think there's been enough study and been enough support, but what would it look like to, I've been hearing this forever. What would it take to finally do the thing that we all know needs to happen?
So again, that kind of goes back to the timing that I was talking about with these other major city initiatives and community initiatives that are underway. You know, there are a lot of things that in the next year that are going to be absorbing community capacity and brain power, you know, with an election for counselors, with the big bond measure that's out there. And so concerns that I personally have, we know that this is a step that we need to take. We know that it's a part of implementing the climate action plan. Depending on timing and approach for something like this, it could get lost in the noise of everything else that's going on out there in terms of the why and the meaning and the timing of all of it. And it could, we wouldn't want to start it at the wrong time and have it get derailed because of other things that are occurring in the community. So, you know, what I would say is that this is something that may get advanced through the climate action plan. It may get advanced separately. I don't see it being something that would be advanced within the next 6 months because of so many other things and priorities occurring in the community and with city staff, that it may be something that after the election or after the primaries, after we have new counselors, after they've been kind of educated and brought up to speed about all of this, then we would start having discussions about it. But there's a lot of kind of laying that groundwork that we need to be doing first, I think.
Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen, this is Linda again. I have a question for you. I'll say that this was a sort of a discussion with some business owners or some things I've heard through the grapevine, in that, what are your feelings on individual or business support to help fund something that could get moved through, but with the understanding that it would not then be their responsibility forever after that, you know, that then the city would take it over. And I will use a quick example. I've actually been sort of trying to figure it out, that I spoke with Cherie about this. If say a business owner was unhappy and their whole street was unhappy with the lights that they have that are technically there, but eventually will get changed, would there be a way that they could fund up a project of maybe having that happen sooner, but that the city would still then own them after the fact? It's just, I don't know. I'm just wondering, because I think people would like to see action. And so sometimes they feel that if, hey, I'll throw some money into this because I can see an end product, but at the same time, they're not going to want to keep putting the money in year after year after year. So I don't know if that's ever been brought up.
Well, I think that is very dependent on what the specific issue is, you know, and, you know, if it's lighting, then that involves other departments. It could involve PGE. There are a lot of stakeholders in that. So I would say if there is a specific interest, then to contact Cherie or contact me so we can find out who those stakeholders are. And then we can really this is one of those, like, it's all about the details.
Yeah, and you're echoing what I've already heard from Cherie, but it was more like trying to understand, because it came up in another meeting I had today with basically the boundaries of where private money could come in to support some of the city projects, but not necessarily then be responsible for continuing them. And I think it is mainly because people are wanting to beautify or wanting to help, but we just don't know how.
Yeah. Understood. Yeah. Speak with us about the details so we can pull the people together that would need to weigh in on it.
Okay. Thank you for again clarifying.
I want to retract or go backwards to how we got going down this rabbit hole. Productive one was the allocation of the streetscape landscaping assessment for $50,000. Cherie, do you think that's enough? And if there's money left over, what would be done with it?
I'm hoping that it would not cost that much based on what the scope of work would be.
Sure.
And again, if we don't use it all, then it's just a matter of next year at this moment. If we want to have whatever the balance is rebudgeted, then we would talk about it then. Otherwise, if we complete what we need and we have, we don't use all the money, it just is still in Riverfront to be used for something else. I don't think we'll have a problem getting a scope and the work done with that dollar amount.
Okay. I wouldn't think, I think so.
Yeah,
well,
I don't see a problem.
We have 7 minutes left in our scheduled time, and I know we've got other items to go through as well. So if we want to move on from this one, I say we do that.
So again, I'll just real quickly say that the other two new projects, one being the Marion Parkade comprehensive building assessment, that parkade was built in '87. Due to the frequency of the power washings of the stairwell, which exceed anything that anybody ever thought, we have issues now with seismic, structural, the brick veneer has issues, the glass has issues. So I had a meeting with planning and facilities staff to look at the best way to determine how to get a cost estimate for addressing these capital improvements that are going to need to be done. We also talked about possibly making some big type of changes to help mitigate in the future the ongoing challenges that we have. For example, if you've been to Marion Parkade, there's a lot of glass. The stairwells are enclosed, possibly looking at a way to open the stairwells up and possibly make some architectural changes to have that parking structure really add to the look and feel of what we know is going to be the future of the developments going north. We have, the Nordstrom's buildings coming down, and a lot of our future will be redevelopment of properties going north. It would be nice to have that parking structure be utilized differently than it is today. So that's why that one is in there. Josh, if you asked me the same question that you just asked me, this year's budget had 100,000 in it. And I worked with police and facilities and building and safety to look at Marion and Chemeketa to see if we could make some improvements to help with safety and crime prevention. Nothing came out of those meetings in regards to improvements that could be made. Probably now that I've just had this conversation with them, it's because it was more problems, something that would be more expensive than just what my 100,000 could cover. So if in fact we can get the scope and get it done this year, I would use some of the money, I would look at that 100,000 to help pay for it this year. And then I would have more to continue into next year if additional analysis are required. Forensic, something that wasn't in the original scope of the infrastructure for that. So I feel comfortable with what I have in this year's budget and what I'm proposing to address that. Any questions? I know I'm talking really fast. Okay, and the last one, we've already talked about that the parking fund, does not have the revenue to cover the capital costs, unfortunately, and we want to keep on track with the capital improvement schedule that facilities has given us. And so painting and doing the sealants and all of the work that goes into it to make sure that the joints and those capital items that are associated with painting are done. I've put the budget that was in what I gave you in the last meeting in this one for Riverfront to fund. But again, it just goes back to the ongoing discussion we've had now forever that the model, the parking district model, is not appropriate. It does not cover the cost, the basic cost to run the district, and it gives us no money to do the flower baskets, the holiday lights, events, promotion, any of that we all want. So the other thing I just want to make sure is that you saw in the budget those things that are old projects, but they're still not done. So I'll just hit them real quickly. This year we're going to have the conversion of Court Street from one-way to two-way. Still working on that bike-friendly project on Union Street. Michael comes and updates us from Public Works where they're doing a designated lane for bikes on Union Street. Let's see. We're going to, carry over those things that would help us in a property owner who's sitting on a vacant building like Liberty Plaza or Salem Center or where TJ Maxx is, if they needed additional engineering or consulting work that we could help them move those things along, we would. So most of it you already know, but because there's so many new people, I just wanted to make sure that if you had questions on those, so let me know. How's everybody feeling? Good? I really hate that I can't see you all at once, but is everybody good with everything I just went over?
Yes.
Cherie,
Okay.
you would just see smiling faces all across the board.
I love these smiling faces, and I'm just going to take a picture because I'm not going to get smiling faces on the next one, but that's okay. I feel like at least I know I've prepared you for the next conversation. Okay, so the only last two things I had was Councilor Stapleton had wanted us to share that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And the more people that can kind of gather around or bring attention to that, they're going to be like having a theme painting the town blue. So I wanted to put that out there early enough that those of you that want to contribute in some way have time to do that. The other thing that has come out of city manager's office is that, and you'll probably be seeing more on it, the city has the ability to do a $300 million bond that would not increase the citizens' tax rate at all. And so they're very interested in getting feedback from the public in regards to what's important to them to use the money for. I mean, there's fire equipment replacement and park upgrades and, affordable housing and things like that that have already been put out there. But there's going to be the ability for you to answer a survey. And then I'm going to have Courtney come in the spring when more of this is kind of firmed up as far as the categories and talk to you. But I wanted to say, take a look at that. If you see that come up, that's what that's about. Anything anybody else wants to share that's going on?
Well, I'm sure we all have lots of exciting things to share, but we are a minute past our meeting agenda, and I want to be really respectful of everybody's time. Thursday during the work week here. So unless there's something just beating on your chest to share, I would probably say we can adjourn. Okay, so Sheree, thank you, everybody. We will see you very shortly on February 10th. And Scott, welcome to DAB.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
And we will see you all, or hopefully most of you, on February 10th, right here.
Thank you. Bye.